After months of grueling battles across the world's most treacherous circuits, we now arrive at the historic Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, where the ultimate chapter of this thrilling season will be written. Monza, the Temple of Speed, is faster than ever before. This year, the iconic oval layout returns, stretching the limits of man and machine like never before. A circuit where bravery is the only currency that matters, and a single misstep can mean the difference between victory and disaster. All eyes are on the championship battle. Juan Manuel Fangio, the master of consistency and precision, is on the verge of securing his fourth world title. But Peter Collins, young, fearless, and still in mathematical contention, is not ready to surrender. To seize the crown, he must do the impossible, win here at Monza, while hoping his legendary teammate falters. Yet beyond the fight for the championship, beyond the battle for glory, this race holds something far greater, one of the most unexpected and noble gestures in the history of Formula One. An act so extraordinary that it will leave fans and historians alike in awe for generations to come. But let's not rush the story. Before the engines roar to life, before the drama unfolds, let us first set the stage. When the gates of Monza swung open for the final chapter of the 1956 World Championship, there was no question. Ferrari stood at the very heart of it all. With the title destined for one of their own, Scuderia Ferrari arrived in Monza with confidence, but there was no room for complacency. Winning on home soil was an absolute priority, and they came prepared, fielding an astonishing 6 Ferrari D50s, an armada ready to conquer their beloved Autodromo Nazionale. Leading the charge were their two title contenders, Juan Manuel Fangio, the maestro of Grand Prix racing, and Peter Collins, the young Brit who had defied all expectations this season. Alongside them, Eugenio Castellotti and Luigi Musso, both eager to make a statement in front of the passionate Italian crowd. Then there was Alfonso de Portigo, the fearless Spanish nobleman, bringing his daring spirit to Ferrari's ranks. And finally, the newcomer, a name yet to be written into the history books, Wolfgang von Trips. The young German aristocrat was making his World Championship debut, stepping into the lion's den for his first taste of Formula One. For Maserati, the fight for the championship had already slipped through their fingers at the Nürburgring, but that didn't mean they arrived in Monza unprepared. On the contrary, Modena's finest came armed with 5 Maserati 250Fs, determined to finish the season in the strongest way possible. At the forefront were their two leading drivers, Stirling and Jean Behra. Both had shown flashes of brilliance throughout the year, and here in Monza, they were entrusted with upgraded machines, Maserati's latest effort to take the fight to Ferrari one last time. Cesare Perdisa, sidelined due to injuries from the German Grand Prix, was absent. In his place, Maserati called upon a veteran of Italian motor racing, Luigi Villoresi. At 47 years old, the experienced racer returned to the top level, ready to guide the younger Maserati men. Joining him were Umberto Maioli and Chico Godia. Meanwhile, a young Swede, Joe Bonnier, waited as a reserve driver, his first step into the world of Formula One. The latest evolution of the 250F, assigned to Moss and Behra, featured a lowered driving position, with the seat slightly offset to the right. This change allowed for a sleeker body profile, reducing drag and improving balance. The fuel tank was reshaped to double as a headrest, seamlessly blending into the car's streamlined design. The cockpit itself was more enclosed than before. The windscreen and side panels curved smoothly into the tail section, leaving only the driver's head visible while tucking his arms and shoulders inside the bodywork. The fuel tank was now secured with spring-loaded bolts on rubber mounts, replacing the older steel strap method. Up front, the engine cover was tightly wrapped around the motor, with a tubular duct enclosing the carburetor intakes. The radiators were lower and wider, with vents directing hot air through the undertray to improve cooling efficiency. Mechanically, the car retained its familiar suspension, brakes, clutch, and engine. But one key adjustment was made. The steering box was now mounted directly onto the chassis frame, rather than the clutch housing, improving stability. The wheelbase was also extended by 20 millimeters, lowering the center of gravity and sharpening handling. These refinements, combined with a more aerodynamic silhouette, helped extract the most from Maserati's 285 to 290 horsepower engine, turning the 250F into an even more formidable contender against Ferrari on their home turf. Maserati didn't just bring numbers to Monza, they arrived with a refined weapon. Tony van der Velde's Vanwall team arrived in Italy with 3 of their bright green machines. Their driver lineup remained strong. Leading the charge were the team's regulars, Harry Schell and Maurice Trintignant, both eager to push the British effort forward. Alongside them, a seasoned name in Italian motorsport, Piero Taruffi, was brought in for this one race, his experience invaluable in tackling Monza's punishing high-speed layout. Vanwall arrived at Monza with their trio of cars largely unchanged in terms of mechanics, but with key reinforcements to handle the punishing high-speed banking. The team strengthened the de Dion rear suspension, using thicker gauge steel to prevent failures over the circuit's brutal bumps. To manage the heavy forces generated on the banking, the cars ran with a reduced fuel load, preventing the suspension from bottoming out under strain. For Vanwall, this was more than just another Grand Prix. Taking on Ferrari and Maserati in Italy was a bold statement of intent, a test of whether British engineering could stand its ground against the titans of the sport. In the shadow of the titanic battles between Ferrari and Maserati, Gordini arrived at Monza with a far more modest, but no less determined effort. The small French outfit, ever the underdog, lined up 2 of its 8-cylinder T32 machines for the final race of the season. At the wheel were their 2 main drivers, Frenchman Robert Manzon, a veteran with deep ties to the team, and Brazilian racer Hermano da Silva Ramos, the only driver to have secured any championship points for Gordini this season. Their task was monumental, facing not only the overwhelming firepower of the Italian teams, but also the ever-present reliability concerns that had plagued Gordini's campaign.
Benvenuti cari tifosi al leggendario Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. Un cuore rosso per tutti voi, gli appassionati che rendono questo sport ancora più speciale. Oggi ci troviamo qui per il Gran Premio d'Italia, la 27ª edizione di questa straordinaria gara che decide il campione della stagione 1956 di Formula 1.
The Italian fans had every reason to celebrate as Ferrari stamped its authority over the final qualifying session of the World Championship. The Scuderia's drivers dominated the timesheets, but their superiority came with concerns. Once again, as in previous years, the high-speed banked sections of Monza proved troublesome, with Ferrari's cars suffering from tyre delamination. This persistent issue stirred unease in the team's garage. Adding to the tension, a dramatic incident unfolded involving rookie Wolfgang von Trips. Pushing hard through the first corner, the young German lost control and crashed violently, his Ferrari nearly destroyed in the process. Despite his shaken state, von Trips returned to the pits on foot, adamantly claiming that a mechanical issue had caused the crash rather than driver error. However, team manager Scolati dismissed the explanation, an oversight that would later prove to be a critical mistake. Regardless of these setbacks, Ferrari still locked out the top 3 spots on the grid. Once again, Juan Manuel Fangio demonstrated his class, securing pole position with a blistering lap nearly 4 seconds faster than his best from the previous year with Mercedes. His teammates Eugenio Castellotti and Luigi Musso were not far behind, trailing their leader by just over a second. In contrast, Peter Collins, Fangio's closest rival in the championship, struggled and could only manage 7th place. Surprisingly, 4th place went to Vanwall's Piero Taruffi, showcasing the British car's impressive top speed at Monza's high-speed layout. Behind him, Jean Behra and Stirling lined up in their new, lower-profile Maseratis. The pair struggled initially to adapt to the modified cars, but still set near-identical times, finishing around 3 seconds off Fangio's benchmark. The rest of the top 10 featured Maserati's veteran Luigi Villoresi, who always seemed to find pace at Monza, along with Alfonso de Portago in another Ferrari. Meanwhile, Van Wall's Harry Schell and Maurice Trintignant rounded out the leading pack. As for Connaught, the British outfit faced near disaster before the race had even begun. Their tyre supplier, Pirelli, had mistakenly brought 17-inch tyres, which didn't fit the team's 16-inch Dunlop wheels. Just as the situation seemed dire, the Avon Tyre Company stepped in, supplying them with correctly sized rubber and reassuring the team that the tyres would hold up for the full race distance. The morning of the 1956 Italian Grand Prix dawned under a heavy downpour, drenching the legendary Monza circuit in rainwater. For hours, the track was completely soaked, leaving teams and drivers uncertain about what conditions they would face. However, as noon approached, the skies began to clear, and the sun broke through the clouds, working quickly to dry the asphalt. By the time the cars lined up on the grid, nearly all signs of the earlier downpour had disappeared. The surface was now in ideal racing condition, dry, fast, and ready for a high-speed battle.
In pole position Juan Manuel Fangio su Ferrari, con il tempo di 2 minuti e 42 secondi e 6 decimi. Accanto a lui, in seconda posizione, il nostro Eugenio Castellotti, anche lui su Ferrari, con un tempo di 2 minuti e 43 secondi e 4 decimi. In terza posizione, ancora un italiano, Luigi Musso, su Ferrari, con un tempo di 2 minuti e 43 secondi e 7 decimi. Musso è pronto a sfruttare ogni opportunità per farsi largo in questo incredibile gruppo. In quarta posizione, un altro grande pilota italiano, Piero Taruffi, su Vanwall, con un tempo di 2 minuti e 45 secondi e 4 centesimi. E in quinta posizione, il francese Jean Behra su Maserati, con un tempo di 2 minuti e 45 secondi e 6 centesimi. Behra è un pilota aggressivo e pronto a lottare fino all'ultimo metro.
The stakes could not be higher. 50 laps of Monza lay ahead, totaling a grueling 500 kilometers. With the championship still undecided, every inch of this race would count.
Signore e signori, è il momento. Il Gran Premio d'Italia del 1956 sta per iniziare.
The flag drops, and the Italian Grand Prix is underway. As has been the case more than once this season, Juan Manuel Fangio takes a measured approach off the line, unwilling to gamble too much in the opening moments. Eugenio Castellotti and Luigi Musso launch into an all-out war for the lead, throwing caution and tyre management to the wind. They rocket through Monza's high-speed straights, neither willing to yield an inch. The crowd erupts as their scarlet machines dance on the edge of control, inches apart, pushing their Ferraris as hard as they dare. By the third lap, Harry Schell is making his presence known in spectacular fashion. The American is flying in the Van Wall, and with a bold move, he slips past Fangio to snatch third place. But the Argentine isn't concerned with reclaiming the position. His eyes are on a bigger picture. With the championship on the line, his priority is clear, keeping Peter Collins behind at all costs. Just 4 laps into the race, the first casualty emerges. A thick plume of smoke billows from the rear of Hermano da Silva Ramos's Gordini, as the Brazilian coasts to a stop at the side of the circuit. His engine has given up in spectacular fashion, an all too familiar sight for the struggling French outfit. One Gordini is already out, and the race has barely begun. On lap 5, disaster strikes for Castellotti. The relentless pace and brutal demands of Monza's high-speed layout prove too much for his Engelbert tyres. With a violent jolt, the rubber gives way, an explosive failure that sends the Ferrari skidding for control. He dives into the pits for a fresh set. When he finally roars back onto the circuit, he's down to 12th place. And almost as if fate had scripted it, Musso suffers the exact same ordeal. His tires, mercilessly punished in the relentless duel with Castellotti, give up the ghost. He limped back to the pits, where Ferrari's mechanics, already weary from Castellotti's emergency stop, scramble into action once more. But the drama isn't over yet. As Musso finally rejoins the race, the roar of an approaching engine fills the air. It's Castellotti. The young Italian flashes past his teammate in a blur of red, reclaiming track position in an instant. And just like that, there's a new leader at Monza. Stirling Moss, in a dazzling display of sheer speed and precision, scythes through the pack, overtaking Collins, Fangio and Schell, all in a single electrifying lap. The crowd watches in awe as the British ace wrestles his newly improved Maserati 250F through the curves and onto the high-speed straights, proving beyond a doubt that the latest evolution of the Modenese machine is a step in the right direction. With the Ferraris faltering and Vanwall unable to keep up, Moss is now in control. But Monza has never been kind to frontrunners, and the race is still in its infancy. Luigi Musso is in no mood to linger at the back. After his costly pit stop, he's pushing to regain lost ground, his Ferrari screaming down the straights as he hunts down Castellotti. By lap 6, he's right on his teammate's tail, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Exiting the Parabolica, Musso gets the run. He pulls alongside Castellotti, with the grandstands watching in anticipation, sealing the move. By the 7th lap, disaster strikes yet again for Ferrari, this time claiming Alfonso de Portago. The Spaniard had been running in 7th place, holding his own among the front runners, when suddenly his Englebert tyre gave out at high speed. The violent blowout sent his Ferrari snapping sideways, skidding alarmingly close to the barriers. De Portago managed to keep the car under control and coax it back to the pits, but his hopes of continuing were quickly dashed. The brutal tyre failure had wrecked the rear suspension. For De Portago, the Italian Grand Prix was over. On the 9th lap, trouble strikes for Piero Taruffi. The Italian veteran had been holding a strong 5th place, keeping pace with the leaders, when he suddenly veered into the pits, his Vanwall trailing a worrying sheen of oil. Minutes slipped away, and by the time he rejoined the race, his earlier advantage was gone. He had tumbled down the order to 10th place. Seizing the opportunity, Jean Behra surged into 5th, breaking into the points and putting Maserati back into contention. On the 10th lap, disaster struck once again for Eugenio Castellotti. The left rear tyre suddenly gave out in spectacular fashion. The Ferrari snapped sideways in an instant, spun wildly, screeching across the track in reverse, leaving streaks of burnt rubber in its wake. For a terrifying moment, it seemed as though the worst might have happened. Then, through the dust and bent metal, Castellotti emerged, shaken but miraculously unhurt. His race, however, was over. For several laps now, an unexpected duel had gripped the Monza crowd in an eerie, almost disbelieving silence. The Tifosi, known for their relentless passion, found themselves watching a battle for the lead, but not a single Ferrari was in sight. The unthinkable was happening. An American driver in a British car was leading the Italian Grand Prix. The Ferrari camp looked on in silence. Peter Collins' title hopes take a heavy hit as his left rear tyre fails, forcing him into the pits from 4th place. The delay drops him to 8th, likely ending his championship chances. Jean Behra moves up to 4th, while Trintignant takes 5th. With Ferrari struggling, the battle for victory remains between Schell and Moss. But on the very next lap, Moss charging hard to reclaim the lead, overtaking Schell once again. The situation worsens for Vanwall as both of their remaining cars are forced into retirement. Taruffi, who had been running in a solid position, is sidelined due to an oil leak, while Trintignant, who had been competing fiercely in the top spots, suffers a transmission failure. The Frenchman had been in 5th place before his car broke down, and now his misfortune elevates Musso to 5th. On lap 17, disaster strikes for Fangio as he slowly limps into the pits, his Ferrari's front wheels facing in different directions. The mechanics quickly diagnose the issue, a broken right steering arm. The repair proves to be a painstakingly long process, and by the time the Argentine finally re-enters the race, he's almost at the back of the pack, with little chance of scoring any points. However, the silver lining for Fangio is that Collins is still struggling in 6th place, meaning the world champion still holds the upper hand in the championship battle. Just. The race may have turned against him, but his title hopes remain alive, albeit hanging by a thread. On lap 18, Musso manages to close the gap and pass Behra, moving himself into 3rd position. The Italian's pace has been impressive, and with the race evolving in unexpected ways, he finds himself in a prime spot to make a push for even more. The Tifosi, still in disbelief over the unfolding drama, now have a new hero to rally behind. On lap 19, the weather takes a sudden turn as rain begins to fall, creating a slippery and unpredictable track. The once dry surface now becomes treacherous. Amidst these challenging conditions, Collins makes a crucial move, passing Maioli to take 5th place. The Englishman's confidence and focus remain strong as he adapts to the changing track, knowing that each position gained in these unpredictable conditions could prove invaluable. Moss seems to thrive in the rain, as if the wet track is an extension of his own instincts. His natural skill in these conditions becomes evident, and he sets an impressive pace, effortlessly pulling away from the rest of the field, visibly building a comfortable cushion between him and the chasing pack. On lap 24, Jean Behra's Maserati suffers a magneto failure, forcing the Frenchman to pull off into the pits and retire from the race. This opens the door for Peter Collins, who moves up to 4th place, inching closer to the front, despite the ongoing challenges. On lap 28, Harry Schell makes his scheduled pit stop for refueling. Collins is 3rd. On lap 29, Flockhart makes a move on Umberto Maioli, passing him and securing 5th place in the race. On lap 30, Fangio, now struggling in 12th place and eager to recover any lost positions, makes a pit stop and hands his Ferrari over to Castellotti. Despite the earlier terrifying crash he experienced due to a blown tyre, Castellotti wastes no time in getting back behind the wheel of the Ferrari. On lap 31, Musso enters the pits to have his tyres checked. As the mechanics change the wheels, the Scuderia manager suggests he give his car to Fangio. However, Musso refuses, and eager to continue the race, speeds back out onto the track, unwilling to hand over his seat. The rain finally stops, and the track begins to dry, setting the stage for the final laps. As Schell approaches the finish line, disaster strikes. His car's main gear jams, forcing the American to pull off to the side of the track. The Tifosi, despite the misfortune, cheer loudly for Schell, appreciating the incredible speed he had displayed throughout the race. And then, dear fans, it happens. Collins, driving in 3rd, still in fight for the World Championship, suddenly pulls his car into the pits. But what happens next leaves everyone speechless. There, waiting in the pit, is none other than Juan Manuel Fangio. Without a moment's hesitation, the Englishman offers the world champion his seat, handing over the chance to finish the race in his place. Fangio is taken aback by this remarkable display of generosity. For a moment, he stands frozen, unsure of how to react to such an incredible gesture. Overcome with emotion, Fangio embraces his teammate in a heartfelt hug. This isn't just a gesture of sportsmanship, but an unspoken bond forged through years of racing side by side. Fangio climbs into Collins' car, the weight of the championship suddenly resting on his shoulders once more. The team quickly makes adjustments, and Fangio is sent back onto the track in third place. As he speeds away, the significance of Collins' sacrifice becomes apparent. It's a noble act that seals the fate of the championship. This moment marks the turning point in the race, and as the laps wind down, the fans at Monza know that Collins' selflessness has shifted the balance of the championship, handing the crown back to Fangio and making it his for the fourth time. On lap 45, Stirling Moss slows down. He's completely out of fuel. The Englishman begins to coast, his race seemingly over. But just as all seems lost, Petrolheads, driving another Maserati, appears behind him. In a stunning show of sportsmanship, the Italian pulls up and begins to push Moss's car forward, helping the stranded driver. Thanks to Petrolheads' unexpected and selfless help, Moss is able to make it back to the pits. However, as he re-enters, Musso charges past him, claiming the lead. It's a dramatic turn of events, as the Italian now finds himself in the front, with the race still far from decided. Moss, refusing to back down, launches into a furious charge, pushing his Maserati at full throttle. With every corner, he gives it everything, driving as though there's no tomorrow. His hard work pays off as he sets the fastest lap of the race, clocking an impressive 2 minutes 45.5 seconds. Not only does he grab the fastest time, but he also surpasses his own qualifying time by 0.4 of a second. As Musso inches closer to what seemed like a certain victory, disaster strikes. The left steering arm on his Ferrari gives way, leading to a catastrophic burst of the left rear tire. The Ferrari skids uncontrollably, but by sheer luck, it lacks the necessary speed to cause a major incident. Still, the shock overwhelms Musso, and after the harrowing moment, he stumbles out of the car, fainting as he collapses into the pits. Meanwhile, to the utter dismay of the Tifosi, Moss finds himself back in the lead. The Englishman, now in the top spot, is urged by his team to ease off, as they grow increasingly worried about the Pirelli tires showing signs of potential delamination. As the final lap unfolds, Moss holds his composure and manages to stabilize his lead over Fangio. With his mastery over the situation, Moss crosses the finish line, clinching a remarkable and unexpected victory, a triumph that no one saw coming. Fangio, despite all the chaos, finishes in second place. But for the Argentine, this is no ordinary finish. His second-place result is enough to secure his fourth World Championship title. Flockhart claims third place, marking not only his first-ever points in Formula One, but also bringing Connaught their first-ever podium in the World Championship. Godia's steady performance lands him in fourth place. While his race wasn't particularly spectacular, his consistency and reliability saw him keep his car on track to finish just behind the top three. Finally, Fairman takes fifth place, further solidifying Connaught's success in this race and cementing their place in the history books with a remarkable double finish in the points. As the checkered flag falls, Fangio does not immediately head toward Moss, the race winner. Instead, his focus shifts to Collins, the teammate who had played such a crucial role in his victory. The world champion said, "When Collins came in, he saw me stuck there and, without being asked, he got out of his car and offered it to me to finish in. That was a fantastic gesture. My anxiety and misery gave way to joy, so much so that I threw my arms around him and kissed him." And then Peter Collins replied, "I am only 25 years old and have plenty of time to win the championship on my own." He spoke with the certainty of a man who believed his moment would come, who knew that his day in the sun was still ahead. But, as is often the case in the unforgiving world of motorsport, fate had other plans for this brave and noble gentleman. As the 1956 Formula One season draws to a close, it's time to reflect on a championship that captivated motorsport fans all over the world. A season filled with drama, passion, and high-speed thrills. After 8 intense rounds, Here are the final standings of the 1956 World Championship. In first place, and securing his fourth World Championship title, the maestro of strategy and precision, the Argentine legend, Juan Manuel Fangio. Fangio's calm, calculated approach to the season was the stuff of legend. With consistent podium finishes, the champion once again proved why he is regarded as one of the greatest to ever sit behind the wheel. A combination of brilliant tactics, experience, and a never-give-up attitude led him to the top of the standings. In second place, securing his place as one of the season's true stars, Stirling Moss. He sealed his runner-up place with this triumph at Monza. And in third place, the young and promising Peter Collins. He finished the season as the third best driver in the world. His loyalty to his teammate Fangio at the Italian Grand Prix was a remarkable act of sportsmanship, cementing his place in the hearts of motorsport fans as both a competitor and a true gentleman of the sport. And so, the 1956 Formula One season comes to a close. A year that brought us thrilling battles, acts of sportsmanship, heartbreak, and sheer speed. Juan Manuel Fangio reigned supreme once again, capturing his fourth world title, while Stirling Moss and Peter Collins solidified their places as future legends of the sport. The stories of this season will live on in the annals of Formula One history, reminding us of the incredible passion and relentless drive that fuels this sport. As we bid farewell to 1956, we extend our deepest gratitude to all of you, our incredible community. Your passion, your love for racing, and your unwavering support are what keep this journey alive. This video is made for you, the ones who share the same fire for this glorious sport. Thank you for being a part of this incredible adventure. The road to 1957 is ahead of us, and we can't wait to share it with you. From the first lap to the final curve, your passion drives us. Thanks for being part of this journey. See you in 1957, because Formula One never stops.